Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
Flips it for the touchdown.
This week, it's an old-school rivalry as the Las Vegas Raiders collide with the Denver Broncos.
This is a matchup everybody wants to see.
Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party. TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Raiders and Broncos, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
In Walmart's Hoonuville, everyone readied their cart. The early Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember are the 14th to the 16th of November. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about my new favorite topic, Otroverts. And if you don't know what this is, you're not alone. The book came out in June that coined this term, and it basically means people like my clients, a lot of my clients and myself. And these are people who, well, I'll just tell you the title of the book, which gives you some understanding. It's called The Gift of Not Belonging: How Outsiders Thrive in a World of Joiners. And so if you are somebody who kind of marches to the beat of he has some quote like marches to the beat of your own drum, but it's like a different instrument. It's not even a drum. These are entrepreneurs. These are people who question social norms. They can seem extroverted or introverted. They get along with people. They could be loving, obviously family members and friends. It's just that they have trouble with groups and with believing that just because everybody says something that it's like the right thing. And these people frequently come up with their own path. And I will talk to you a lot more about Otroverts after I do tell you to subscribe. You thought I forgot, but I never forget. Please do subscribe to get hundreds more episodes of the Dr. Psych Mom Show. And, I mean, it's not going to be a subscriber one because it's too cool. Everybody has to hear it. But I do have the guy who wrote the Otrovert book scheduled in a few weeks to come on the show. So that's super cool. He was a nice guy when I reached out to him. He's a psychiatrist, esteemed person who was in New York, so Rami Kaminski, and I will be able to actually ask him in a video format all of my questions about Otroverts. And before that, I'm just going to read to you actually, because you can take a test online. And if you want to know what I got a 210. And in my secret Facebook group, everybody was taking the test. And there were some others. Some people got exactly what I got. Kat Roebuck, the relationship coach at Best Life, who you should all work with if you can. She also got Otrovert. She got one more point than me. My husband is an Otrovert. So I'm going to read it to you because it's worth reading to you from the site, the otherness. It's like otherness.com. No, it's not that. Hold on. I'll tell you what it is. All right. So it's othernessinstitute.com. So that's this doctor's site. And he's writing about this whole idea that he came up with. And of course, it's so interesting because I'm sure these are overrepresented in the mental health community. He's a psychiatrist. I'm a psychologist. These are the people who think kind of deeply and outside the box. But I want to read it to you because it's interesting. So this is a deeper dive into Otrovert traits. Otherness can be difficult to recognize, not only because it's a phenomenon that has only recently been brought to awareness, but also because it doesn't necessarily manifest in some of the ways one would expect. Otroverts compensate for their inability to belong with great sensitivity and uncanny ability to empathize. Far from being remote and rigid, Otroverts are warm, emotive, and amiable, which gives the impression that they are very sociable. An Otrovert can powerfully tune in and connect with another person's mind. However, they cannot fathom how a group thinks collectively. So this is kind of the experience that some of us have at like a sports event. Like, it's cool and everything, but you don't necessarily not only do you not care, but you also don't really understand how someone would care. It's kind of like weird. You don't really understand how somebody would care. And that is the same for religion. It's the same for, any club or sorority or fraternity, school spirit, any of that stuff. The guy was recounting feeling like that at Boy Scouts when he was young. Like they were saying, oh, you're going to serve God and country and the Scouts, and everybody's nodding. And he felt like he didn't really understand, like how somebody would identify with these larger concepts and everybody would feel the same in the same moment. So here's some key features. Otroverts have trouble with consensus, quote, everybody knows, while having no trouble in agreeing with individuals one-on-one. So that's obviously very similar to me, certainly. I love my individual clients. I could totally bond to them and empathize with them and feel deeply what they're feeling. But in terms of like a large group of people, it's hard to even understand, in a sense, like how everybody would be thinking the same thing or trying to think the same thing or feeling the same thing. These big amusement parks are difficult for Otroverts. He even has a funny story in the book, and the book is called, I told you, The Gift of Not Belonging, so you should get it on Amazon, and I'll link to it in the description. But he talks about how he didn't want to go to Disneyland, but he went for his son, and his son seems to be another Otrovert. He was like 4 years old, and they were already sick of the lines and stuff after like a few times, and then his son said to him, oh, if we leave now, we could still say we went to Disneyland. Because neither of them really was into it. They were not into the experience of being being at Disneyland because of this Otrovert trait or whatever this trait is that he's called Otrovert. Otroverts cannot be comfortable or even successful in a type of work that requires team players. So these are all the people out there who hate group work. Otroverts are dedicated to their own personal traditions and habits, but abhor shared rituals and customs. So you may like to have your own rituals with your family, with your partner, and with yourself. But in terms of larger communal spirit around holidays, etc., it always feels kind of a little bit like you're not getting something, like you don't understand kind of how the other people feel. Otroverts do not ask for nor accept advice. They make their own decisions. This is unless somebody is like an expert on a certain thing. So like, you go to a hairstylist who knows how to do your hair, or, the guy at the Apple store can fix your iPad. But in terms of life advice, that's kind of your own path to choose. It would not be thought by an Otrovert that another person would be so similar to you that they would be able to just kind of tell you what your path should be. Whereas that is a lot of people, most humans really do like that. And that's why we have leaders and gurus and all sorts of self-help, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why a lot of people love giving or receiving advice, rather. And I like to give advice. So that's a good fit, for my career. And with another Otrovert, it's funny because I always end up saying to them, so these are a lot of entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of very successful people, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs who are Otroverts. And I'm going to make every one of them, if you're, listening to this and you are somebody who sees me individually, I'm going to make you take this test if I think you might be an Otrovert. But the point is that I will say things to most clients, I'll say something, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. If I say something to give a suggestion to an Otrovert, I often have to qualify it. Like, if you don't agree with everything I say, that's fine. You don't have to tell me every time you don't. Just take what you can. There will be some bits of it that could be useful that you can try. Because if an Otrovert feels that they are being told like a whole way of being, they're never going to take somebody's whole way of being, all of the pieces of advice, because that cannot possibly be personally relevant. This is why religion is very difficult for Otroverts, It's very difficult to see how, millions of people could somehow have to do and feel and be the same way, the same thing. Otroverts recognize the absurd in human situations. Well, that's for sure. That is the people, there's frequently people who laugh in the middle of therapy, and And it's not just always me. It's like the client. And those people are frequently Otroverts. They think the whole situation is kind of ridiculous. And sometimes this could be super offensive to a partner because the partner who is not an Otrovert is taking everything super seriously. And like, for example, at a party, the Otrovert is almost like, why should we even be at a party? Like, why do people even have parties? And the person who's trying to enjoy themselves at a party is like, why are you so crazy? Like, why can't you just enjoy yourself at a party? And then that will obviously lead to, a feeling of disconnect, to put it mildly. They automatically categorize everything they encounter to whether it makes sense to them or not. So that's kind of what I've been saying. So there are no large-scale pieces of advice that seem to represent what's right for everyone to the Otrovert. That doesn't even make sense. It would have to be individual. It would have to be personally resonant. You feel, this one was funny. I was like, man, this guy really got, kind of all of these bullet points. You feel respect for your biology and biology in general. I mean, as you know, I talk so much about biology, and the other Otrovert clients that I have also do talk a lot about their rhythms, and they're very aware of like what time of day they do things well, what they like to eat, when they like to exercise. They can see connections between biology and everything else, like, society and social norms, and the overlap between biology and sociology and philosophy, and to see kind of the bigger picture in those ways. A lot of artists, I'm sure there's a big overlap with HSPs, highly sensitive people, and I'm totally going to talk to him about that. And they kind of respect their own individual needs, and that on a bad side, and he even says this in the book, which obviously I devoured in like 2 days, really less, probably one day from getting it. And I was like, oh, this makes sense, because a lot of guys who are rigid about that, like, I need to eat this way, I need to think this way, I need to, like if I don't eat, then I can't, if I don't exercise, I can't clear my mind, then I need to eat this in order to feel best. And obviously that stuff could be super rigid, right? Otroverts do not partake in shared spirituality. They could be religious, especially if they were raised to be religious or if their partner is religious, but they don't deeply identify with all of the other people in the religion. Otroverts need no validation from others. They are emotionally self-sufficient. They don't care as much about approval or disapproval. They want to be loved, of course, by an intimate partner or children or your family, but they don't need somebody to tell them your way is the right way, because they already think, okay, that they know themselves if their way is the right way. An Otrovert is a foul-weather friend. Helping others is very rewarding. Friendship between two Otroverts is easy because neither tolerates enmeshment or codependency. It's kind of like, I have a lot of friends like this, where you go very deep for like a few hours, but then you don't talk to them for like months, and then, but whenever you text them or you call them, it's like this interesting, deep conversation, but then you just don't talk to them for a while, and nobody gets their feelings hurt, because it's not kind of this day-to-day thing, especially if, when you're young, obviously, Otroverts are just like everybody else. You're young, you have time to hang out with friends, and so you do. But especially as you get older, and I found this really interesting and personally resonant, you focus more on your priorities. So if your priority with only so many hours in the day is your family, then you're mostly going to be at home with your family. And then when you do get together with a friend, you're going to go deep and talk about everything and really bond. But then that's not going to turn into like a every week thing or every day texting thing, because there's only so much time in the day and the week and the life. And that's something that Otroverts are very conscious of biologically. And Otroverts do not trust institutions. I mean, this is for sure. This is with all my CEO entrepreneur clients. I mean, yeah, like eventually you start thinking, all right, if everybody thinks something, how could that be right? Whereas the average person thinks if everybody thinks something, how could it be wrong? Like exactly the opposite. So if this stuff resonates with you and it's interesting to you, you should definitely take the Otrovert test, and I'll link you to it in the description. And you should look out for my interview with the guy who came up with this trait. And if you're like this, then you should probably work with me or with Kat, and probably the other people who work for me are Otroverts too, but I definitely know Kat is. I was super not surprised. I'm going to have to tell her to listen to this so that she hears her shout out. But like people who just kind of do their own thing, that like sometimes they're masked, but like this guy's like is a psychiatrist, so he is part of an institution, but within the institution he did his own thing, and what his own thing was something that like nobody else believed in. So he went back and he revisited all of the long-term schizophrenic inpatient patients that everybody else had given up on, and he went back and he said which of these people really need to be here and they need to be reevaluated, which was like a super huge effort, but for him it only made sense. You know, Otroverts are really into kind of justice and not being cruel and not being unfair. A lot of them are into animal rights. Obviously, you guys know I'm vegan. I don't mention a lot, so maybe you guys don't know, but my OGs, the real ones, you know that I am. And that's, I'm sure, pretty common for the Otrovert. So anyway, if this is you, I'm about to put it on the website one of these days soon. And you should definitely reach out. And it's probably overrepresented in the secret group. Ironically, Otroverts do join groups, but they join groups and they get what they can out of it. They don't the quote was, they don't auto sync with group mood. Yeah, for sure. Like that has always, since I was a child, I was like, how do all these people auto sync to group mood? Don't you're having some kind of a day, and then like, how are you having a different one just because you're at this ball game? But yeah, anyway, that could mean many things, right? But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this, something new to think about, and I will talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.